This is my first video blog, and it's a rant on what people consider clicker training. It's very frustrating for me that my clients, as well as just the general public, are getting the wrong idea about what the clicker training method is. And what I want to show today is that it's this really magical way of training animals that doesn't involve any forms of intimidation, punishment, corrections, or anything bad, icky that the animal dislikes. So that doesn't mean just in training sessions. That means during the whole time that you interact with your animal, you are in fact training them in using the clicker training method. Basically, clicker training, in my opinion, is what Karen Pryor, the person who created the term, her definition of it is a subset of operant conditioning, which is basically you add good things to the dog's environment and take away good things from the dog's environment. So it's just that. That's all there is to clicker training, and it makes it so simple. But people get emotions involved in it. Dog is stubborn. They put human emotions on these creatures, and so add in punishment into the clicker training. Punishment meaning positive punishment, where you tell the dog, click you if you do it right, but I'm gonna go if you do it wrong. That, in my definition, is not clicker training. That is operant conditioning using a clicker. So basically, old school dog training with a gadget in hand. So I've got a fun little list of how do you know if you're clicker training or not. So, quickly first, you can still be using the clicker training method if you're not using food and a clicker. Surprise, surprise. SeaWorld uses a whistle. My friend uses the word yes. She says yes and gives a treat. Yes and gives something great. Yes and opens the door. You mark behavior and you reinforce it. That's what clicker training is. You don't have to have a little gadget. You don't have to have a little bag of treats attached to your body at all times. That is not what clicker training is about. It's about a way of punishment, intimidation, reprimand-free training where you build the greatest trust and the greatest relationship possible with your animal that's based on scientific training rather than your emotions. Here's my list of you're not using clicker training if. So number 1. If you're using reprimands, intimidation, punishment during training sessions, you're not using clicker training. If you're using reprimands, intimidation, and punishment outside of training, just in regular life, you're not using clicker training. Clicker training is basically a method that you're using 100% of the time that you spend with your dog. I'm not making this video to piss anybody off about how they're training their dog at this point in time. I just want people to realize that they have been misled about what clicker training is. What it's all about is about this technique of building trust and security, safety, and getting amazing behaviors from animals. When I found out about clicker training, I was kind of horrified about what I'd been doing with my previous dog, and I still feel bad. And I just thought, if only I'd known, I wouldn't have gone to the choke chain class when I was 10 years old and made her into this slavish creature. Okay, so luckily with my 2 new dogs, I get to have this amazing relationship with them. You are definitely not using clicker training if you have to lean over your dog to intimidate them into doing something. Hey, you, sit. You're not using clicker training. You're not using clicker training if you have to do this. Sit. Sit. And some people, it's really sad, they don't even know they're doing it. And you have to get them to tie their leashes to their own body. Okay, you are probably not using clicker training if when you ask your dog to do something, they look away like. You're probably not using clicker training if when you ask your dog to do something, they run away or they go put their head down and sniff the ground. Or they yawn at you. If you refer to the things you ask your dog as commands rather than cues, you're probably not clicker training. And, some people might have the terminology still, old school terminology, but if you're hearing a trainer talking about command your dog to do this or tell your dog to do this rather than ask your dog to do that or cue your dog to do that, they're probably not using clicker training methods. They're old school, and it's based on do it or else. Do it or else I'm going to intimidate you, punish you, or make you feel terrible. And if the dog doesn't do it, then obviously what they're doing is not frightening enough, and then they have to, kick it up a notch, and basically, with some dogs you end up screaming at them. If you have to use an intimidating voice to get your dog to do something, you're definitely not using clicker training. I'm going to start getting my stuff in gear and making some training videos, like how to train behaviors that most commonly, maybe 99.9% of the world, use punishment and intimidation to train. So leave it, for instance, is one that really bugs me. I mean, I can't believe that people are still using old school methods to train other stuff. Zoos and aquariums don't use punishment to train these behaviors. So leave it without using an or a no. It's amazing, because if you don't use punishment with a leave it, the dog leaves stuff while you're not there. Usually if you've used punishment, you train them not to go on the couch, guess what? They're going to go on the couch while you're not in the room.